Now this next little video shows you what the frac looks like down at depth. So you case the well bore, you cement the well bore. Now we perforate the zones that we're interested in getting the gas from. And then we push down high pressure water, sand to help open the rock up. These fractures are no more than 100 metres. We're down at 3,000 metres of depth, so everything is going on well below 2,000, 2,500 metres of hard rock from the surface. This is showing you the sand granules going into the rock formation, opening up the rock, allowing the gas to flow. So you see in a horizontal well bore, we repeat the process a few times to get the gas to flow. Those two clips were courtesy of my partner in the project, Phillips. And these are some pictures of our operations from this year. The picture on the top left is the seismic crew acquiring 3D seismic, and then the other pictures are from the rig floor. We used quite a modern rig this year from the Czech Republic, and you can see that the control panel is extremely modern. It's very safe on there. These are pictures from our well completions and the hydraulic fracking stages. The picture on the top left shows you what the location looks like with all the pumping gear lined up. It looks a little bit different from the rig. And the picture on the top right is the flare with it earlier in the year. So it just gives you an idea of what these locations look like. So, what are some of the impacts of what we do? One of the issues relates to, what seismic effect does hydraulic fracking have? Well, the PGI actually, on behalf of the Ministry of Environment, carried out a survey on our first hydraulic frac this year. The results are there to see that these are quotes from your chief geologist. There was no seismic impact felt as a result of our hydraulic fracking in our location. Protecting air quality, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Fewer wells means fewer emissions, so we use techniques developed to try and maximise the recoverability from each well. The more you can get out of each well, the fewer wells you have to drill, the more efficient they are. Life cycles, greenhouse gas emissions are less than coal when you're looking at gas. We believe estimates for greenhouse gases are overstated, and we have sources for that. They're all on the board there. And natural gas is, of course, less carbon intensive than other fuels such as coal. Protecting the groundwater. Well, I showed you a couple of videos which demonstrate the way this works. You can see that the well bore goes down through a lot of layers of thick hard rock, and the work is carried out at the bottom of the well bore, some 3,000 metres down, away from the surface. We cement and case the well bores in accordance with EU and Polish regulations, and in accordance with also international best practice. We do everything we possibly can to make these wells safe. The groundwater on these, you can see, is right at the top. It's difficult for me to show you from here, but there's a blue band at the very top. The groundwater is at around 100 metres. We secure that groundwater with good cement, good casing, and the work we do is carried on at a much greater depth. The groundwater is not affected at all. And if there are issues of groundwater contamination that have come out of the US, they have generally been caused by bad practice. Just a few statistics on water use efficiency. There's been a lot of talk about the amount of water that's used in a hydraulic frac. Gdansk uses in 7 hours about the same amount of water we use in one hydraulic frac. And of course, when we do a hydraulic frac, you don't do it again, you do it once. So it's a one-off use. You may have to go back in 5-7 years' time, but it's not a continuous use of water. You use it for the process and the gas flows. You also compare shale gas to some of the other sources of energy, and from a use of water perspective, it benchmarks it very, very well. I put some statistics up there which show you the volume per unit of water, per unit of energy used in creating energy from shale gas as compared to some of the other forms such as coal, ethanol, biodiesel. You'll see it compares very well. And of course, as part of our operations, we manage our water use absolutely the best way we possibly can and recycle as much as possible. So the aim of the game for us is to not just use a brand new batch of water each time, but to recycle as much as we can for use in future operations, therefore reducing the water consumption. And I know that in the US now the technologies are being developed that in fact allow hydraulic fracking to take place even without water. And these sort of technologies are going to be looked at all as we move forward, and if they can be used, of course they will be. There's a slide about water additives we use. We do use some additives in the fluids. They help the water perform better. I put on the board some of the additives that we do use. Generally though, frac fluids comprise at least 98% water and sand. The balance is some additives. Most additives are found in household products, and some are even edible. And of course, all the additives we use are fully compliant with the Polish rules and with the EU REACH regulations. We comply with those fully. And we are very transparent with the use of those additives. The regulators are fully informed of what we're using, when and in what volumes. This is just a slide that demonstrates some of the rules and regulations that we have to comply with. Just on the environmental side, you'll see that far from being an unregulated industry, there are a lot of rules that regulators from a water management, air, you name it, it's covered. So in our activities, we comply with all Polish rules, all EU rules and international best practice. That is the way we all operate. And in our view, there is an adequate framework in place to regulate exploration. Of course, there will need to be some change as the industry develops, as you move towards development and production. But right now, for the exploration phase, good regulation exists. Manages some concerns raised by communities. The impact we have in the area is always a key point we have to consider. And when you look at the size of the pads that we use, we try to minimise these the best we can, while at the same time, of course, you want a pad that's big enough that can allow you to do multiple wells. But if you just benchmark the size of area used on a well pad compared to how much you would use for a wind farm, there's quite a big difference there, and the statistics are up there on the board. And of course, a rig is moved away after it's carried out its operations, whereas say on a wind farm, the turbines are there to stay. Transparency of operations. We do our very best to make sure we communicate with local authorities and the community in the best way we can. And I've got a couple of slides showing you some of the efforts we've made. Low noise impact. We do our very best to reduce the noise impact of what we do. One of the things we did last year was we brought in a much more modern rig, which is quieter, more efficient, and that is the way forward. And we carry out regular environmental monitoring on our locations, just so we understand what we're doing, and we're clear ourselves on what impacts we have. And Hannah Jakowski, I know, mentioned that the PGI had carried out some sampling on our wells this year, and that the PGI will be publishing those, I think, at some point, or making some statements with those to the Ministry of Environment probably later this year or early next year. So we're very transparent with what we do. Quite happy for the regulator to do its job. And these are some slides from the last community meeting we did in Nowy Wieczna, and I know that the head of the Gmina there is sat in the audience. The way we do these is we work with the Gmina to set up these meetings. We try to speak to the local councillors first, and then we talk to the locals. It's as transparent as it possibly can be. And here's another one we did 2 weeks later in Grufčice for our other well, and again the head of the Gmina sat in the audience today. Transparent, open, as much as we possibly can be. And that's my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Dziękuję bardzo. To była prezentacja dotycząca działania firmy Lane Energy. Teraz przed nami kilkuminutowe prezentacje poszczególnych koncesjonariuszy również. Na początek Talisman Energy Polska. Informacja o działaniach prowadzonych na koncesjach w województwie pomorskim, strategia oraz plany firmy. Głos zabierze pan Tomasz Mach. Bardzo proszę.